My client went from $25K a month to $101K a month. That's $1.2 million a year in just 90 days, simply by making decisions differently and executing faster than everyone else. In this video, I'm going to show you the exact 3-step framework that helped him execute 10x faster than his competition and how you can apply it to your business immediately. I'm Luke Anning, and I help entrepreneurs stop self-sabotaging and getting in their own way. And I've been coaching for the last 4 years. And I'm going to break this down into 3 parts. 1, the science behind why entrepreneurs get in their own way. 2, the 4 specific mental roadblocks costing you thousands. And 3, the $1.2 million framework that's going to allow you to grow 10x faster than everyone else. Now, don't just go straight to the end of the video halfway or click halfway through. That's literally going to be sabotaging the whole point of this. I need you to get the full context of this so that you can move forward in the best way possible. Now, the most valuable insights are going to come as we go through this. So if you don't know a little bit about me, I'm a former growth partner at a 7-figure company, host of the Top 2% podcast, and now we're smashing this video to help you out with mental roadblocks. So, the science of mental roadblocks. For you to overcome these roadblocks in your way, you first need to understand what's happening in your brain. Because once you see where the machinery is at work, you're never going to fall for these patterns again. Now, did you know that the most successful entrepreneurs aren't necessarily smarter than you? They've simply rewired their brains to overcome the exact roadblocks I'm about to show you. So let me break this down with a quick drawing. Here's what you need to know. So the first little bit here is this little green part, the amygdala, is an absolute fuckery. So the first thing that you need to realize is the amygdala, this little part in your brain, is the fear center of your brain. And whenever you get into any layer of uncertainty around decisions that you're going to make, whether that's a team member to hire, whether that's a business decision to make, or whether that's a business pivot to make, you will step into the most emotional part of your brain. Whereas what we have here at the front is the prefrontal cortex, which is more responsible for rational thinking and executive function. Stanford University professor Dr. Robert Sapolsky shows that when you face those uncertain decisions in your business, your amygdala floods with cortisol and stress response, and this literally shuts off your prefrontal cortex. Look, can you see how tiny this part of your brain is? So can you see how dumb your decisions are going to be if you're operating in that? And that's where you literally will find 1,000 excuses as to why you won't do the thing. There's always something in the way. You find a way to sabotage and procrastinate and get in your own way. And that's actually an emotional regulation tool. Procrastination is a way for you to not feel a certain emotion, whether that's fear, anxiety, anger, shame, guilt, pride, potential fear of failure, judgment, or just moving through the process of uncertainty. And it's kind of like a comfort zone fortress. So if you imagine, and what this looks like, the comfort zone fortress is, it looks like this. One wall, it might say for a justification, oh, I just need more information. I need to do more research. Another wall might look like, oh, I'll come back to you tomorrow, or I'll come back to you in a week, or I'll go and think about it and I'll come back to you in a month. That's procrastination. That's you not moving through uncertainty. Another one right at the front might be, oh, what if it fails? Or what if I fail? Or what if I can't follow through? Or what if, all these weak what if questions. Another one might be, oh, I'm not ready yet. I'll come back when I've done X, which is usually the main reason why you need to leave the comfort zone in the first place. And every time you try and leave the fortress, your brain comes up with a reason why you can't leave, a logical justification. But that is your amygdala operating. It's not your prefrontal cortex. And the challenge is your business growth happens entirely outside of the comfort zone fortress. And the University of California found that entrepreneurs who recognize these defense mechanisms make decisions 58% faster than those who don't. But there's a third piece to this puzzle that explains why even when you know what to do, you still put it off. And this comes from Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman. His research shows we dramatically overvalue immediate rewards and undervalue future benefits. When your brain looks at a decision with immediate discomfort, like potential rejection, difficult conversations, or complex work, and delayed rewards like future revenue or business growth or new freedom or a better life for your kids or better health, It distorts the value calculation, making that immediate pain seem huge while shrinking the future reward. And this is why your brain tells you not now, even when logically you know that the action would massively benefit your business. But here's the good news. Once you understand these mechanisms, you can install new mental software to actually bypass them completely. So in the next section, I'll reveal which of these 4 roadblocks is most likely costing you thousands right now, if not millions. Stay with me, because identifying your specific pattern is the first step to 10x faster execution. Now, what you need to understand beyond the science is looking at the mental pattern showing up specifically for entrepreneurs. Now, I've worked with hundreds of business owners, and these 4 roadblocks consistently cost them the most money and time. And which of these actually is holding you back the most? And you're going to drop it down below. Pay attention, because this awareness alone could actually double your execution speed. The first major roadblock is what I call the perfectionist trap. This sounds like, I need more information before I can start. I just want to make sure it's right. I'll launch when everything is perfect. But research shows that perfectionism reduces your entrepreneurial output by 35%. That's huge. We had a girl who was initially spreading her time across LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and perfectionism was disguised as doing everything at once. She was stuck making just $2,000 a month. But when we cut through this perfectionism and focused her on the one thing that mattered, which was actually reaching out to people and then installing an appointment setter to do that consistently, she went from $2,000 to $13,000 a month in just 4 months. That's a $132,000 annual increase from breaking the perfectionism cycle. And here's the counterintuitive thing. Reid Hoffman, founder of LinkedIn, said if you're not embarrassed by your first version, you've launched too late. And the problem is, when you're operating in perfectionism and trying to tweak every little minor thing, the market is moving. Your competitors are moving. Opportunities are passing. Competitors are taking action. The top performing entrepreneurs don't aim for perfectionism. They aim for effective action. But here's an even more insidious roadblock that might be holding you back right now. Roadblock number 2 is the clarity illusion. The second roadblock works like this. I need complete clarity before I can move forward. I'm just not sure which direction to go. Oh, once I have the full picture, then I'll act. Research shows that clarity doesn't come before action. It comes from action. So this is the kind of wild thing. I'm sure you've driven in fog or been in fog at some point in your life. And when you're in fog, like let's say you're driving down a road, you're in your car. I know you love the drawing, but like let's say you've got all this fog in the road, but you've got somewhere to get to. You've got, I don't know, a wedding, a family birthday or whatever. You don't stop the fucking car and say, oh yeah, sorry, I can't come because there's fog in the way. If you have any kind of integrity, you don't do that. You go and put the lights on. You keep moving through the fog. And the same goes for your business. You may think you have clarity by staying here before you move through the fog, but actually the clarity only comes about the obstacle and the way through the road as you go through the road. It only clears as you move. And Harvard studies on decision paralysis show that waiting for perfect clarity actually reduces clarity because 1, the market keeps changing while you wait. 2, you get more conflicting information. And 3, your confidence actually decreases over time because you lose self-trust with yourself because you don't ever take any action. So the only way to trust yourself is by making decisions to go and get clarity and go and do the thing. Now, the next roadblock might surprise you because it's often disguised as a strength. The third roadblock is known as the isolation effect. And this sounds a little bit like, oh, I should be able to go and figure this out myself, or I don't need help, or I'll just work harder on my own. Whereas the American Society for Training and Development found something remarkable. When you have someone to hold you accountable, your likelihood of completing your goals jump by 95%. That's nearly double. UCLA neuroscience also shows that our brains are literally designed for co-regulation. We are designed for co-regulation. We perform better with support than in isolation. So let me share some specific data. We had an online legal service provider who has just hit the 7-figure turnover mark. And when we first started working together, her task completion rate was 13%. And what does that mean? It means up until the point we were working together, and this is just when we were doing our work together, when she was setting out her tasks for the week, and most people don't even do this, is she was only achieving 13%. And one of her challenges was self-confidence in her leadership. She struggled with leading the team to do the things that she wanted them to do. And no wonder if you're only completing 13% of the tasks that you do. And think about yourself. When you give yourself a load of tasks to do, how many do you actually complete? Now, 4 weeks later, with our accountability structure, she hit 80% completion rate, not by doing more, but by doing less. And the result of that is she scaled from sub £50,000 a month to £83,000 a month. Like, let's say you want to go to the gym and you want to go and set a new bench PR. You're like, hey, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go and set a new bench PR. Now, I've been going to the gym for a long time, and you could probably go and sort this out yourself and go and hit a PR. Yeah, for sure. But I can also tell you from years and years of experience working with some of the highest level people in the space, you are going to get such a difference when you work with a professional who's going to motivate you, who's going to spot you, who can point out your techniques and flaws of where you're doing things wrong, and even just give you an ego boost in the moment to go and bench more. Your capacity for lifting more is going to go up significantly higher. And I can tell you this for a fact because my ego didn't let me go and get support until I really needed it. My shoulders were a mess. And then I got support from a super high level person. And in 3 weeks, we went further than I had done in 8 months. And I'd been doing mid to high level, from grassroots to mid to high level training from my entire life up until that point. And we just blasted through it because he knew more than me. Now, the final roadblock is the one I see destroying the most potential and talented entrepreneurs. The final roadblock is false urgency spiral. This sounds like, oh, I need to handle emails first, or I've got too many fires to put out, or I'll get to strategic work once things calm down, or I've just got this other thing that's more important, or there's always something in the fucking way. But Harvard Business Review studied how CEOs spend their time and found that 65% consistently prioritize urgent tasks over important ones, the exact opposite of what drives business growth. And this connects us directly to what I teach about focus highways. So, like, let's say you've got 4 highways as a business owner. So let's say you're driving down 4 highways or 4 motorways, whatever you want to call them. And you're all moving in a fast moving car. I know you love the drawings. Down each one, except for each car is a different part of your business. So this is the marketing car. This is the sales car. This is the operations car. And this is, say, your personal life car. So we'll just put PL for personal life. Now, here's the thing. You can only drive one of these cars effectively at once. You try to drive all 4 all at the same time. You're either going to be hopping from one car to the next, so you're just going to be constantly having to pause things because they all rely on you, or you're going to crash all 4. And even worse, if you're in a race, and let's be real, business at times is a race, then you're going to lose every single time. I have a client that came to me and she was doing multiple things. So she was doing UGC, content creating. She has an SMMA. She was doing spiritual coaching. She was doing network marketing for crypto and stocks. And she was even doing some dog sitting, pet sitting, also while preparing to be a full-time mum making 10K a month. Now, the problem isn't capability. It's about focus here. She's a hyperaction taker. So she's like, yes to everything, but never actually making significant progress to the one thing that would move her business forward. And because of that, there was some eczema issues. There was some sleep and anxiety issues. There was some depression issues. And as soon as we eliminated one of those cars, one of those vehicles, the eczema has cleared up nearly completely, and her income raised as well. And what you need to realize is the most successful business owners aren't the ones that are busiest. They're not the ones who are doing everything themselves. They're not the ones rejecting help. They're the ones that are most focused and most prioritized. Now, this is where we come to the most important part, the exact 3-step framework that will transform your decision, speed, and execution. And this is what turned my clients' 25K months into 101K months and $1.2 million a year projected. And it could be the same for you. Now, you both now understand both the science and the real world obstacles. So let's dive into the framework that's actually going to transform your not now impulses into immediate action and help you execute 10x faster. I call this the $1.2 million framework, and it consists of 3 powerful steps that you can implement immediately after this video. And this isn't just theoretical. I've seen this framework help numerous entrepreneurs double their execution speed in less than a week. Like Javier, he went from taking 5 hours to do a task down to 2 hours. It was the exact same task with the exact same amount of inputs, but all he did was systemize it and change how he operated. Now, the first step I like to call it is intentional pattern interruption. So your brain runs on patterns. When you notice yourself falling into the not now patterns, you need a reliable way to snap the fuck out. So here's how that actually looks. The moment you notice yourself starting to go into, oh, I'll do this later, or I'll do this tomorrow, I need more information, use this pattern interrupt question. What would my future self wish I had done in this moment? And this question instantly shifts your brain from amygdala, the emotional part, to the prefrontal cortex, your decision center, which gives you a brief window to actually make a better decision. So what does that actually look like in practice? Your brain has been used to operating on a certain execution pathway for the last few years. It's got its pros, it's got its cons, it's got its justifications, and this is the electrical pathway that your brain is operating in. What we need here is a 2 to 5 second window to allow yourself to break the circuit to then operate in a different way. A way that actually serves everything that you want in the future and operates from a bigger, higher level. So it begins ultimately with a trigger, like seeing a difficult task on your calendar or having to make a decision in the moment. And this normally follows the pathway of least resistance. So you're going to go avoidance, you're going to go procrastination or busy work. That might look like scrolling. That might look like, oh, I'm just going to go out for dinner, or I'm just going to go, I'm just going to do this other thing. But your pattern interrupt question acts like the circuit breaker. So stopping the automatic response, you can have a 2 to 5 second window where you can manually redirect your actions. So I teach my clients to physically move their bodies when they implement this. Stand up, change positions, or even just raise your hands like this. Physical movement accelerates the pattern interrupt by shifting your physiology. And one of my clients, an agency owner, was completely caught up in client delivery. He was the one doing the client delivery, and he worked out like if he just hired one person that he'd been putting off for the last few months, then he could get 30 hours a week back for him to work on higher level stuff and make his way towards 40K a month. And within literally one quick teaching of this framework, boom, snap, got his systems built in and got his person implemented and hired. Now, it's not just, oh yeah, he got this person hired, but he actually was able to build the systems within his business to trust himself to delegate and hire. And that was part of his thing, was he was getting in his own way where he was constantly in that same looping pattern and operating from his amygdala. Now, step 2 here is what I call future self decision making. Once you've interrupted the pattern, you need a way to make better decisions. So especially when you're stuck in fear or uncertainty, here's a powerful question I use with all my clients. What would your future self advise you to do right now? I got taught this by my first ever mindset mentor and business coach. He was doing around 3 to 5 million a month. But imagine that you've got these dark shaded glasses on right now, and everything that you see in the world is operated from these dark shaded glasses. Everything that you see in the world has this dark shade on it. But can you imagine what the difference is like when you take those dark shaded glasses off? How much brighter everything else is, how much more you can see, the different tones, the different shades, the different colors. This is what happens when you decide to take action from your future self and you stop looking through the glasses that you've been looking through for your past life, your current self, because your current self is simply made up of all the past decisions that got you to here. And that's thoughts, that's beliefs, that's confidence, that's so many different things. And like I said earlier, your brain will fight to stay here. Your brain will fight to stay here because your brain's desire to feel safe is more important to the brain than it is to go and get your reward, which is in your future self, which is why the amygdala will trigger anytime that you want to step into something uncertain and outside of the comfort zone, right? So when you're essentially asking, what would my future self advise me to do? You're essentially time traveling to gain wisdom from your own success. So here's how to implement this. Really simple. Close your eyes, take a big deep breath. Visualize yourself as that peaceful, calm, organized, structured person who knows exactly what life they have a different level of confidence. They have already achieved all the success you're aiming for. And from that perspective, what advice would you give to your present day self? And if you're struggling with this and you're like, oh, I can't connect with them, take some more deep breaths. And third question here is like, what action would this future version of you insist that you take today? So going through the whole framework, take a deep breath, exhale, exhale. Stay present with this. Visualize your future self. You're peaceful, you're calm, you're organized, you're happier, you have everything that you want. Feel into this. What advice would you give to your present self? And what action would this future version of you insist that you take today? And this shifts you from a fear-based decision place to a possibility-based decision-making framework. And I had another client who was hesitating on investing $9,000 into a sales program, even though he knew he needed help with his sales process, but kept delaying the decision. And when we did the future self exercise, he realized his future self would absolutely tell him to make the investment rather than trying to figure it out alone, which is what he'd been doing for months, which was with minimal results. And here's the context. After he made the investment, he went from $57K a month, building out the systems to take a full month off kayaking, have the freedom he wanted, and then return to hit $101,000 in a single month. His future self was right. And have a think about that. Like, that's almost 50K, call it 45 just to be conservative, 46,000 a month that was costing him for 4 months. That's nearly $200,000 in cash collected that indecision was causing him. Now, the reality is very simple. The opportunity cost of not taking action is almost always greater than the cost of moving forward imperfectly. As Richard Branson says, screw it, let's do it. That is sometimes the most sophisticated decision-making framework that you actually need. Now, here's one more critical piece to this framework that ensures consistent execution. The final step is implementation triggers. So even with pattern interruption and future self decision-making, you need a system to ensure consistent execution. And this is where implementation triggers come in. Peter Gollwitzer that shows that if-then implementation intentions increase follow-through by up to 300%. So think of implementation triggers as bridges between your intentions and your actions. Most entrepreneurs have a gap from what they intend to do versus what they actually do. Implementation triggers close the gap of the if-then statements. For example, slowing this down. If it's Monday at 10 a.m., then I will contact 5 potential partners. Another example, if I see an email that would take less than 2 minutes, then I will handle it immediately. Or if I feel resistance towards an important task, then I will use the 5-minute commitment technique. These triggers move action from your conscious mind, which requires willpower, to your subconscious mind, which operates automatically. So it might be like if I experience negative thoughts, I'm going to write them down immediately so that they don't overtake all of and sabotage my entire next few steps. And a key is specificity. Vague intention leads to 0 actions, 0 results. So specific triggers lead to consistent execution. So my client who implemented these triggers went from completing 14 to 25% of her strategic tasks to 85% in just a few weeks, which resulted in a 30% increase in revenue with no additional working hours, actually less working hours. So have a think about for you. If I get in a space where I am here, then what is my intention? What am I going to do? So let's summarize the $1.2 million decision-making framework. 1, intention, pattern interruption. Break the not now cycle with a future self question and physical movement. 2, future self decision making. Step into your future self to gain clarity on what actions to take today. 3, implementation triggers. Create specific if-then statements that bridge your intention and action. And have a think about where you could be doing this more. So by implementing these 3 steps, you're going to transform into somebody who consistently never puts things off, can operate 10x faster, and gets excuses out of their way immediately on what matters most, which is exactly the kind of decision making that took my client from 25K to 101K a month. Now, before I wrap this up, I'm going to give you a specific implementation challenge that would help you apply this framework in the next 24 hours. And this one action alone could dramatically accelerate your growth. Now, we've covered a lot of ground today. So my challenge for you is, what is one business decision that you've been postponing that you could execute on the next 24 hours? Think about it for a moment. Is it having that difficult conversation with a team member? Is it finally delegating that process you've been holding on to? Is it investing into yourself so that you can break through to the next level? Whatever it is, I want you to apply this framework right now. Ask yourself, what would my future self advise me to do? And then commit to taking that action within the next 24 hours. Now, the difference between entrepreneurs that are stuck between 10 to 30K a month and those who scale past 50, 100K a month or beyond isn't intelligence or even strategy. It's their ability to execute quickly on what matters most. So each time you transform a not now into a right now, you're not just completing a task, you're rewiring your brain and your identity into somebody that is decisive and is worth being followed and builds momentum that compounds over time. And I remember when I was sleeping in my car, struggling to make any progress, the turnaround came not when I found the perfect strategy, but when I stopped putting off important actions I knew I needed to take. The shift came from hesitation to immediate execution that stayed with me my entire career. And that's the difference between where I was stuck being in a car, then having to stay at my parents, to making 5 figures a month within just 4 months. And if you find value in this framework and you're ready to stop self-sabotaging and start operating at your true potential, you can find more resources in the description below. And if you're serious about breaking through your current ceiling and you actually want to execute 10x faster so you can break through your current revenue ceiling, stagnancy, then listen closely. I don't just coach over here. I partner with very select entrepreneurs. I work in the trenches with you to implement these exact frameworks in your specific business. My successful clients typically bring me into work with their team members and clients too after we initially do our initial phase. So creating exponential growth throughout their organization. And because of this high touch approach and my limited capacity, I'm forced to raise my prices regularly just to manage demand and filter out anyone who isn't fully committed. So right now I have a few spots at the current investment level, and I only have enough space to be able to onboard 3 people a week. So once these are filled, the price will increase substantially, as it has done every single set of 3 clients for the past few years. So if you want to be one of those people who gets access to the $1.2 million framework from me and actually implementing it with you at today's rate, click the link in the description to book a call. Fair warning, this isn't for everyone. I only work with serious entrepreneurs who are ready to execute immediately. So the button below this video will take you to an application page where you can tell me a little bit about your business. And if it seems like we might be a fit, you'll get access to the booking calendar. Now, remember, as your future self would tell you, the decision you make right now determines whether you're still struggling with the same issue 6 months from now, or executing 10x faster and scaling towards that $1.2 million per year. Not today, not tomorrow, but right now. And at the end of the day, you don't have to book in a consultation with me, but if you have been considering it or you've gained a lot of values from my trainings, then you will get more value over time, but then again, like, it's gonna cost more.